especially in the JP courts, you have a very, very high volume of cases, especially tickets, because you think about it, I mean, how many people are getting tickets in the county? And there are, the four courts are not equal as far as getting their stuff done in an efficient manner. Justice of the Peace number 2 in that court in particular seems to be a little less efficient. I have tickets in that court that are over a year old. And I talk to my secretary about it almost on a daily basis. Did we get it set yet? Is that ticket that's over a year old gotten set yet? No. I've sent lists to the secretary there. These are the ones that I have that are 8 months to a year old. Are we going to get them set? Yeah, I know they're there. Don't worry, we'll get them done. I have some of the newer ones set, but these old ones just keep on lingering and lingering. And that's one of my problems that I have with this particular court. Judge Hansen's court, he has a particular protocol that he does. He gets his tickets set. They're set efficiently. You know, when you get put on it, when you get hired on a ticket and you put an appearance in with the court, it gets set within a matter of weeks. And then if you don't respond, it gets reset. And then once you negotiate with the DAs, it gets reset within a matter of weeks after that. I mean, it is very, very set in stone. And you know when you have to put your money in, you know you have to get it done, and it gets done. But Justice of the Peace 2 doesn't have that. And I think it really does need some protocol to speed things up. The only thing I can say right now what we're going to be able to do is get rid of the backlog. And I have an idea because when I was a city prosecutor in Amarillo, we had a huge backlog of cases. And so what we would do is once a year, we have to take all the really old cases and set them on dockets and make all the attorneys and all the pro se litigants come in and negotiate them within 1 week's period. I mean, it was a lot of work, and sometimes we were up till midnight negotiating these cases, but we got them done. And you have to do that. If you let them stay stagnant for a year like that, if you let them stay stagnant for a year like that, your officers leave, you're never going to get any of the revenue that you need for the county out of those tickets. They're going to go away. So it's completely absurd to have them last that long.
Regarding the original question, how I would define a backlog, I don't know that there's any kind of official definition of that, and I suspect it would depend on what kind of case you're talking about. All I can tell you is in the court that I ran back in the 90s, we got to cases quickly. We just we set them as quickly as we can. Every once in a while, particularly if there's an attorney involved, there would be a request for a continuance or for a postponement. But I have not specifically spoken regarding efficiency in this court one way or the other during this campaign. But since I'm not on the inside, it is either an employee or a litigant. The only knowledge I know of the efficiency in his office is what I've heard him say on the campaign trail. But AJ asked about efficiency, and I pointed out the same thing I just pointed out. I'm not on the inside, so I can't specifically say how efficient it is or is not. If I'm elected, when I take office, I'll review policies and procedures, and if there's a need for some changes, I'll make the changes.
I have no backlog, and I never have had a backlog. I had an advantage when I first took office. Lubbock County in 1990 created a new precinct called Precinct 7. We had 7 JPs then. Since I started with no cases, I had no backlog. When they consolidated, I'm the only judge left from those days, but when we consolidated from 7 to 4, I inherited some cases from some of the other courts, and I worked through those quickly and rapidly. If you have a case in my court and you ask for a trial, we'll have you trial within 2 weeks. Okay? Statutorily, in some civil cases, the legislature messed with us. We used to be able to set all cases within 2 weeks, but the legislature enacted things called discovery rules in civil cases in JP court and required us to set the case at least 45 days out. So we're forced by law. Otherwise, I'd be hearing every case, contested case, within a very short time. As Ms. Rowley indicated, sometimes the attorneys delay the cases through continuances. But every case in my court for 20 years has been tried as fast as the good Lord is able to get the message out in the mail. We have to notify the litigants, obviously, before we can have a trial. But your trial is going to be within 10 days to 2 weeks unless statutes require me to wait.
In reference to the criminal cases, my opponent seems to think there is a tremendous backlog in all the cases she has in my court. Right now, there are 3 cases that she has pending in my court. We received a letter of representation on one in November of '09 and one in February of 2010 and one in November, another one in November of '09. So there's 3 cases that she's representing in my court since she left the DA's office over 10 years ago. All 3 of those are set for trial in March. And so from November to March, for a very busy court, a high volume court that handles over 7,000 cases a year, that's a pretty quick setting. And so we keep our docket up current. As Judge Hanson has talked about, there is some statutory requirements on the civil cases. And oftentimes when those civil cases are set, especially when they involve insurance companies and attorneys from Houston or Dallas and San Antonio and places way on down the country, each side will often request continuance, file motion for continuance with the court. The court reviews those motions, and if feels like they should be granted, we grant those continuances based on whatever their motion is. But in my court, we keep a very current docket and keep it up to date as law will allow.